Eat to live or live to eat. Food is a symbol of culture and identity, regardless of religion, race, and background. Feasting is universal and provides comfort and solace, with food symbolically transcending life and death. There are several uses of food. For instance, we all know that the Irish love their booze. This is no exception, even at funerals. Through a long night of mourning, a sweet treat is needed to balance out the large amounts of alcohol. Eventually, an excessively sugary and decadent type of cake became a common sight at funerals, earning the name wake cakes. The rhyme makes for a fun wordplay, but that's merely the beginning. The name of this comfort food is highly paradoxical. Cakes are most associated with celebrations and birthdays. Yet in this case, it's used in a funeral. The fun of the name wake cake is seen as a welcome distraction, but could very well be seen as inappropriate, or even worse, completely rude in other cultures. The Irish were evidently light-hearted, with social activities of booze and sweets being at the forefront even at deaths. The name wake cakes is nothing but a casual play on the English language. Death is a universally sensitive topic, be it due to superstition, fear, or culture. People have always found ways to soften the harshness of loss through language, such as the bizarre expressions of kick the bucket and fly kite, or the direct yet gentle put to sleep and passed on. These are acts of euphemism to counter the pain that comes with loss. On the other hand, England has customary funeral tea, a ceremony which included ham so much to the point that it is possible to hear, "Has he been buried with ham?" and "a real spread." Speaking of England and India's treatment of funeral food differ greatly. Arval bread is a coarse cake with the following characteristics. It is also known as shop cakes or oat cakes, and it is an alcoholic English funeral staple. The history of arval is derived from heirs given the rights to the inheritance. This traditional practice is derived from when sins of the deceased are transferred to a sin-eating consuming food passed over a coffin. Essentially, arval bread helps release the soul from its sins. We see the act of consuming alcohol as the sinner and savior to release the deceased of his wrongdoings. The English treatment of food in funerals is a consumable sweetness to balance out the bitterness of death. In North India, specifically Hinduism, the family of the recently deceased take great care in observing a strict vegetarian diet through the 12-day funeral process. At the end, they hold a feast as an act of appreciation for the life of the deceased and to conclude their mourning as they return to everyday life. It is also a representation of the soul completing its travels and reaching the land of ancestors. As Hindus consider the cow to be immensely sacred and holy, they generally do not consume beef at all. By extension, consuming meat is seen as generally harmful towards other powerful life forms in the Hindu faith. Hence, observing a strict vegetarian diet and omitting meat is deemed as a great act of respect to the deceased. In this sense, Hindus honor the seizing of a human life by practicing restraint and abstinence from food that would otherwise have been part of their everyday lives. Eventually, we see that they too conclude the fast of sorts, making way for indulgence and enjoyment of feast in the same way England does. With food being a language and communicative tool by itself, the values, beliefs, and priorities of a community shine most clearly seeing the way food is used during times of sadness. After all, the spirit of a community is the most apparent in times of trouble. In conclusion, we generally note the nuances that come hand in hand between countries and religion, but also noting the parallels at the same time. Every culture mourns differently, for different linguistically interesting reasons. Thus, we observe the multi-universal function of food that has blended into each specific culture for a good reason.